Star verdict. Am I the a-hole for kicking my mother-in-law out of the room for trying to change my baby's name? I, 29 female, gave birth to my son last week. My husband, 32 male, and I agreed to name my son after my father. My father passed away when I was 14, and we were very close. His middle name is named after my husband's grandfather. My mother-in-law is very opinionated about everything. She has been giving us her opinion on everything for our son. The day I was due, I only wanted my husband there. He drove me to the hospital, and my mother-in-law walks into the room and starts babbling on about the baby's name, feeding schedules. I kept it together as best as I could. After my son was born, mother-in-law was trying to talk my husband into convincing me to change his name. She asked the nurses if she could legally change his name. She even went as far as to accuse me of controlling my husband into his name. I yelled at her to get out of the room, and we would not be changing his name. She left and has been telling family members a different story. My husband has been sticking up for me and told her that nothing will be changed. If she continues, we'll be cutting her off from seeing her grandson. Now, most of her side of the family are calling me names and demanding I apologize to mother-in-law. She has texted me a few times calling me an a-hole. Am I the a-hole for kicking her out? Top comments. Not the a-hole. And I would tell her this: you have one chance. You stop this madness now, you apologize for your behavior, and you tell everyone else to back off. Or this is literally the last you will ever hear from us, and you will never see this child again. You are not the parent, you do not have a say, and until you submit and accept this, there is nothing here for you. This is good advice, but have her son/your husband do it. She'll see he stands with you. Your family's presence is your leverage, and she has to earn it back. Enjoy your new baby. How did mother-in-law even know OP went into labor and was going to the hospital? It seems obvious that her husband told mother-in-law, and then didn't manage her in any way. OP is obviously not the a-hole, but I'm side-eyeing her husband, at least a little right now. In a normal family, I'd expect a soon-to-be new father to let his mother know that the new grandchild is about to be born. Though, it's understandable if he doesn't have time to do so. And how is he supposed to manage her? The mother-in-law's behavior, as described, is atrocious, but I don't see any evidence that the husband did anything wrong. He absolutely should have told her to leave the moment she showed up. Not the a-hole. The OP is not in the wrong for asking their mother-in-law to leave the room and standing their ground regarding their son's name. Naming your child is a deeply personal decision, and it's clear that the OP and their husband chose a name that holds significant meaning for both of them. The OP's mother-in-law's intrusive behavior, attempting to convince them to change the name and accusing the OP of manipulation, was disrespectful and crossing boundaries. It's commendable that the OP's husband is supporting them by standing up to his mother. For the OP, cutting off contact with their mother-in-law, at least temporarily, may be necessary to establish healthy boundaries and protect their family's well-being. The negative reactions from other family members are unfortunate, but it's important that the OP prioritize their own happiness and the well-being of their immediate family. Am I the a-hole for lying to my mother-in-law about the gender of our baby after she promised to keep it a secret? I didn't really want a gender reveal party, but my husband's family made a big deal about it, so I agreed. My mother-in-law was convinced that I knew the gender and insisted I tell her. I totally didn't, and I told her that fact. She wore me down after a month of bothering me about it. She begged me and promised that she wouldn't tell anyone. This was all on text. I told her it was a girl. I figured it was a 50-50 chance and would get her off my back. Well, she lied. When we cut the cake to reveal a blue inside, there was a really awkward silence. She had told literally all of the guests from her side of the family so they could bring appropriate gifts. My friends and family quickly gathered around to congratulate us on our son. She came over and hissed at me that I made her look stupid. I reminded her that she had promised not to tell anyone. She said she had never promised, so I showed her our text conversation. Some of her family were right there when I did that, so they heard her admit she lied and had never intended to keep that promise. She said that it was a jerk move and that I only did it to embarrass her. I again reminded her that I had told her on multiple occasions that I did not know the gender. My husband wants me to apologize to keep the peace. I probably will, but I don't think I was an a-hole like she seems to think. Top comments. Not the a-hole. She embarrassed herself. I'm sorry you embarrassed yourself by lying. It's about the only apology I'd be willing to give. Edit. Oh my god. Thanks for the rewards. Oh, I second this. This is the only proper apology for this situation. I'm sorry I trusted you to keep this between us. I'm sorry for thinking you could act like an adult. I'm sorry you can't be trusted with news and will be finding things out through social media. Not the a-hole. The OP is not in the wrong for feeling frustrated and disappointed with their mother-in-law's actions. They clearly communicated to their mother-in-law that they did not know the gender of their baby. However, she persistently got on the OP's back, begging for information until the OP reluctantly provided an answer. The OP even had proof showing that she had promised not to disclose the information. It was her betrayal of that promise and subsequent lies that caused the awkward situation at the gender reveal party. The OP's mother-in-law's attempts to shift the blame onto them and accuse the OP of intentionally embarrassing them is both unfair and unreasonable. Even more disappointing is that the OP's husband is siding with his mother and is putting it on the OP to apologize and resolve the issue. I would not blame the OP for wanting space from their mother-in-law and for having a discussion with their husband about being more supportive and standing up for them. Am I the a-hole for not wanting my mother-in-law to be with my baby without me around? My mother-in-law and I have a strained relationship. There's always been some tension, but it got worse around 7 months pregnant, and she, my brother-in-law, and my sister-in-law moved in with my husband and I for a few months while their new home was being built. I had a very emotional pregnancy and was very overwhelmed with having a full house while preparing for the arrival of our first child. My mother-in-law also was a bit overbearing with her unborn, saying she was her baby, wanting a full nursery at her new house and making plans to keep the baby overnight as a newborn, which she never discussed doing. A lot of tension built up between my brother-in-law and mother-in-law because I was emotional and reacted irrationally to the smallest things. After I gave birth and was myself again, I apologized to my brother-in-law, and he completely understood, and we've been great since. When I apologized to my mother-in-law, she wasn't as forgiving. She was still a bit overbearing as well, just being overall very possessive towards her. Unfortunately, for the first couple of months, our baby was very attached to me since I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I'm with her every day. Every time anyone would hold her, mother-in-law included, she would kick and scream and cry. After a couple of times, my mother-in-law stopped interacting with her. Now that our baby is older, she's 1 now, she doesn't react in that way. She's allowed my mother-in-law to hold her without getting upset. Now my mother-in-law wants more one-on-one quality time with our baby to bond. The issue is, my relationship with my mother-in-law has gotten worse, and it is clear that she still does not like me. On numerous occasions, I have apologized for how I acted when I was pregnant, and I've tried to reach out to hang out and mend our relationship, but she has declined invitations. We have a family vacation coming up, and she mentioned she hadn't gone shopping for it yet. I invited her to go shopping with my husband and I, and she replied with, "I'm going to watch the baby." And then I replied, "I thought you said you need to go shopping too." I asked her again if she wanted to come with us, and she declined. My husband wants to drop our baby off at her house while the two of us go shopping, which I thought was weird because we usually all shop together. He eventually told me she specifically wants to spend time with our baby alone and doesn't want me there. This upset me. It made me feel like she genuinely doesn't want a relationship with me. I told my husband I'm not comfortable with dropping our baby off with someone who doesn't like me and most likely doesn't respect me. And if she wants to spend time with our baby, I would rather us all be together. Once we mend our relationship, I'll be more open to it. Just to note, I have never denied her time with our baby. The three of us usually go to her house and hang out for a couple of hours whenever she asks us to. But my husband says I'm getting in the way of their relationship and I'm weaponizing our baby. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. Not the a-hole. What is it that she wants to do with the baby but feels she can't do with you there? To me, that's concerning. Your husband sounds a bit enmeshed with his mother. Plus, weaponizing the baby? Bet we all know where hubby picked this stuff up. Mother-in-law equals crazy, stay clear. Hubby equals no spine, sad. Not the a-hole, obviously. Bet we all know where hubby picked this stuff up. Yes, he picked it up from a lifetime of indoctrination and training from a manipulative parent. Funny how don't blame the victim never applies to men. Don't blame the victim would apply if we were talking about the husband's childhood. When the victim is actively enabling and perpetuating abuse, the rules change. People don't really like to talk about it, but abuse is cyclical. And when people are raised thinking an abusive dynamic is normal, they are likely to perpetuate it as adults. You can't dismiss that under the guise of not blaming the victim. Sure, the husband could learn and grow and realize that he's acting badly because of how he was raised. But right now he's perpetuating and enabling bad behavior towards his wife and child. Well, you know this guy is an adult and a father. He's a victim of his mom, but he's also responsible for his own actions. Same for women. Being a victim doesn't give a free pass for this BS to the end of his life. Not the a-hole. It's understandable that the OP feels uncomfortable with the idea of leaving their baby alone with their mother-in-law, especially considering the strained relationship between the two of them. It's important for the OP to prioritize the baby's well-being and their own comfort in this situation. The OP's concerns about wanting to be present during their baby's interactions with their mother-in-law and mending the relationship before considering separate bonding time are 100% valid. It's not fair for their husband to accuse them of weaponizing their baby. The OP is simply expressing their concerns and seeking a compromise that feels right to them. It may be helpful for the OP to involve a neutral third party, such as a counselor or therapist, to facilitate productive discussions and help rebuild their relationship with their mother-in-law and their husband. Am I the a-hole for confronting my mother-in-law about her behavior towards me? I, 32 female, have been married to my husband, 34 male, for 5 years, and we have a 1-year-old son. My mother-in-law, 62 female, lives in another state, but she visits us a few times a year and stays with us for a week or so. We have generally had a good relationship, although I have noticed that she can be critical and controlling at times. Recently, my mother-in-law came to visit us for the first time since our son was born. I was excited to see her and hoped that she would bond with our baby. However, things did not go as I had hoped. From the moment she arrived, my mother-in-law started making comments about how I was doing everything wrong with the baby. She criticized my feeding, burping, diapering, and even the way I held him. She also insisted on taking over whenever the baby cried, even when I was trying to console him myself. She would snatch him out of my arms and say things like, "Let me show you how it's done," or "You're not doing it right." I tried to ignore her behavior at first, but it started to wear on me. I felt like she was undermining my confidence as a new mom and making me doubt myself. I also felt like she was disrespecting me as the baby's mother and not trusting my abilities. I talked to my husband about it and he agreed that his mother was being overbearing and that we needed to set some boundaries. So, one evening, when my mother-in-law was criticizing me for giving the baby a pacifier, I decided to confront her. I calmly told her that, while I appreciated her help, I felt like she was being too critical and not respecting my role as the baby's mother. I also said that I would appreciate it if she could give me some space to figure things out on my own and only offer advice as I asked for it. My mother-in-law did not take it well. She accused me of being too sensitive and not listening to her expertise as a mother of two. She also said that I was being unfair to her and trying to push her away. Things escalated from there and we ended up having a heated argument. My husband tried to mediate, but it was clear that both of us were too emotional to have a productive conversation. My mother-in-law ended up leaving early and said that she was hurt by my behavior. Since then, things have been strained between us. My mother-in-law has been calling my husband and complaining about me, saying that I am a disrespectful daughter-in-law who doesn't appreciate her. My husband has been trying to be neutral, but I can tell that he is torn between his loyalty to his mother and his support for me. I feel like I did the right thing by standing up for myself. but I also regret the way things turned out. I don't want to have a bad relationship with my mother-in-law, but I also don't want to feel disrespected and undermined in my own home. I'm wondering if I could have handled the situation differently, or if I should try to apologize and make things right. So, am I the a-hole for confronting my mother-in-law about her behavior towards me? Or did I overreact and cause unnecessary drama? Top comments. Not the a-hole. Your husband is though. Mama's boy tells you she's being overbearing but won't say it to her face, then cuts you loose and stays Switzerland. That's some BS. Tell him he needs to pick a team, and it better be team wife if he wants a kid number 2. Stick to your boundaries. She sounds like a monster-in-law. Mother-in-law is an a-hole, but husband is an even bigger one. He should have been the one to shut her down and set boundaries. And when mother-in-law argued, he should have told her she can be kind and supportive or she can leave. OP, have your husband read your post in these comments. He needs a wake-up call. Totally agree. OP's husband needs to give up this neutrality BS and back his wife in this situation. Perfect. The baby is one. Mom certainly has been doing things right. Things have changed since mother-in-law had her dear boy, although the umbilical cord doesn't seem to be fully severed. Your husband needs to have your back. He is the problem here. Not supporting you while agreeing she's overbearing and stepping on your toes is BS. He needs to pick a team. Now. The OP is not the a-hole in this situation. It's understandable that they reached a breaking point after enduring constant criticism and undermining from their mother-in-law. It was important for the OP to establish firm boundaries and assert their role as the baby's mother. It's unfortunate that the OP's mother-in-law did not respond well to being confronted and instead became extremely defensive. It's natural for the OP to have regrets about the way things unfolded, especially if they desire a better relationship with their mother-in-law. However, it's crucial for them to remember that they, as the mother, get to set boundaries and prioritize their well-being. The OP's husband needs to stop being neutral and stand up for the OP, who is their wife and the mother of their child. The OP's husband should not stand by idly and watch his mother tear down his wife's self-esteem. The OP and the husband would benefit from working together to set clear boundaries for the mother-in-law regarding their child. Am I the a-hole for demanding my mother-in-law take down a post she made on her social media? Background. I, female 27, lost my late husband, male 33, 3 years ago. He suffered from a chronic condition, and the majority of our time, 11 months, was spent at hospitals. We eventually got engaged and then married in one, but he passed away 3 weeks later. So much happened in such a short time, and it all just left me devastated beyond measure. I have a good relationship with his family, though they are still in contact with my late husband's ex, who left him after being together for 6 years because she couldn't handle it when his condition got worse. My late husband dealt with mental health decline because of it, but clearly my in-laws had forgiven her. They even allowed her to attend the funeral and also gave her some of his belongings and keepsakes. I'm friends with mother-in-law on Facebook. Earlier, I came across a post she made on her Facebook account congratulating my husband's ex for her newborn baby, then announcing that the baby was named after him. I couldn't believe it. Mother-in-law acted as if the ex was his wife, and this was his child. I called mother-in-law to ask her about it, but got no answer. So I went to her house, brought up the post she made, and told her how uncomfortable it made me. She acted like what she did was normal, then went on about how her husband's ex is like a daughter to her. Again, I told her how this made me feel, and asked her to take the post down. She refused. I got upset and said that she was being disrespectful of me as her son's wife, and told her to take it down. She got defensive, saying that my husband's ex did all she could to be there for him, and that it was okay that she felt she couldn't handle the situation anymore and broke things off with him peacefully. She said that it's just a name and that I had no business even mentioning it, much less start an argument about it, and dictate what she should and shouldn't post on our feed. She also said that, yes, other people loved and cared about my husband too, and that I should get over it. I called her insensitive and delusional, which caused her to tell me to leave her house. I returned home feeling horrible. My father-in-law just called to try to speak to me, but I don't feel like talking since I know what he's going to say already, and how he'll take his wife's side on this. I feel enraged, honestly. We were fine. We'd call and visit monthly. Now we're having this falling out, and it's just horrible. Am I the a-hole for my reaction? Was I wrong for this? Top comments. You're the a-hole. I'm sorry for your loss, but you knew him for less than a year and were married for 3 weeks. That was her son for 33 years. She's a grown woman and can mourn that loss of her child however she chooses. She's right. If it bothers you, then read the post and look the other way. You have no right to tell a mother how to handle the memory of her son, not to mention yelling at her in her home uninvited. Even the ex knew him for 6 years. Yes, she's the ex, cruel, and left him during his weakest point, but that doesn't mean she didn't love him once, or even after. It just means she wasn't strong enough to watch him wither away before her eyes. We don't know the circumstances. He died at 30, and would have met his ex at least 7 years prior to that. The ex could have started dating him at a very young age and stuck around as long as she could to not hurt him, out of guilt, or simply because she thought she could be a caregiver forever. That's a pretty heavy situation, and a big commitment for someone in their late teens or early 20s, and they were not married. I believe Opie mentioned in a comment on one of their other posts, the ex and the husband had been friends since high school actually. We're missing some massive chunks of information. While it is understanding that the OP would feel uncomfortable seeing their late husband's ex being congratulated and the baby being named after him, their reaction and behaviors were unreasonable. The OP confronted their mother-in-law aggressively and demanded that she take down a post on her own Facebook feed, which is an overstep of boundaries. It is not the OP's place to dictate what others can and cannot post on their social media accounts. The OP's mother-in-law's explanation about her relationship with their late husband's ex and her perspective on the situation may be valid to her, even if it differs from the OP's. Calling the mother-in-law insensitive and delusional was disrespectful and escalated the situation further. It would be better for the OP to have a calm and respectful conversation to express their feelings and seek understanding, rather than resorting to confrontation and name-calling. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you agree with the verdicts down below. Also, consider checking out my other channel, star_vingart, where I post my artwork, and my Etsy, StarVingartCompany, where I sell my art prints and stickers. Bye.